Hi, welcome to VNN. Coastal and indigenous communities in the Maritimes are disappointed after the recent Canada-EU summit held in St. John's. This meeting failed to tackle the issue of sealing that affects the lives and livelihoods of thousands of people. We have with us Doug Chiasson, Executive Director of the Fur Institute of Canada, and who calls for rational thinking on the issue of seal hunt and indigenous communities. Welcome to VNN, Mr. Chiasson.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you give us an overview of the problem that's faced by the indigenous communities in the Maritimes?
Absolutely. So turning back the clock to 2009, the European Union banned the trade of Canadian seal products into the European Union. As a result, Indigenous communities and the fur industry here in Canada, the sealing industry here in Canada, pursued a number of legal actions against the European Union, first going to the European Court of Justice, unfortunately unsuccessfully. And then the government of Canada took the European Union to the World Trade Organization leading up to 2015. A decision was made by the World Trade Organization in 2015 that the EU seal regime was discriminatory against the Canadian seal industry, and that there needed to be an exemption provided to Indigenous communities here in Canada, the same way that the European Union applied an exemption to that ban to Indigenous communities in Greenland.
And seal hunting has been going on for hundreds of years, isn't it? Why these sudden regulations that cause so much damage to the culture and traditions of Indigenous communities here?
I mean, unfortunately, the sealing industry has been the subject of misinformation campaigns, disinformation campaigns going on, 50 years now, which unfortunately has led a number of governments around the world to take action, which really has had a significant negative impact on coastal and Indigenous communities in Eastern and Northern Canada. So it certainly started with the U.S. Marine Mammal Protection Act in 1972, but in the years since, we've seen bans in a number of countries in the European Union, in Russia, in India. So we what we really are looking for is for decision makers in these countries to look at the facts, to look at and understand that seal hunting is an important activity in these communities, important traditionally, important culturally, but also important economically, and that the industry has taken very significant steps to ensure that the seal harvest is humane and is sustainable. And that, unfortunately, we still have these groups out there that are spreading misinformation about something that really is important to these communities.
You served as a senior policy advisor to the Canadian Minister of Fisheries during the WTO challenge?
Yes, I did.
So apart from, say, fur, what other products were involved in this in the discussions?
Right. So seal provide a number of important products. Certainly the seal skin is the one that folks think of immediately as, seal fur products. But from seals, we also have meat products that are produced. Seal meat is incredibly important for food security, especially in northern communities, as well as seal oil products, which are really an incredible omega-3 nutritional supplement. And are a superior omega-3 nutritional supplement to fish oil or the kinds of omega-3s that people may be a bit more familiar with.
Is it the environmental lobbies and they have huge publicity and propaganda machines that is creating this public perception worldwide?
Certainly the animal rights community, the animal rights NGOs have been leading the charge on this for, like I say, going on 50 years at this point. The PETAs of the world, the Humane Society Internationals of the world, these are very well funded, very well organized organizations. Meanwhile, seal hunting is a small artisanal industry in Eastern and Northern Canada. So it can be difficult for us to be able to to get real facts out there, to get the real information out there in the face of these misinformation and disinformation campaigns.
Does the Canadian government help you in disseminating the right information?
Yeah, so we are supported by the Canadian government. We always like to see more support, but the Federal Fisheries and Oceans Department has provided us with financial support for our Canadian seal products website and information campaign. So folks can go to CanadianSealProducts.com and get the real information about the seal hunt, the real science, the real veterinary science behind harvesting of seals, the real importance, nutritional science for omega-3 supplements coming from seal oil, and help cut through some of the disinformation and misinformation that's out there.
And are seals really at risk as a species in Canadian waters?
No, so with the exception of one very small population of freshwater seals in northern Quebec that are not harvested in the commercial seal industry, all of the seal species that are harvested in the Eastern Canadian seal harvest are doing incredibly well. Our conservation success stories. But we're conservation success stories while we still had a very strong and prosperous seal industry. So this is an industry that people who are involved in the seal industry care more about the fact, more about seals than folks halfway around the world in an office building somewhere.
I mean, from what we have read and what the general perception of the public is that the seals are eating up all cod and salmon fisheries, and that affects other fishermen and the other fishing industry.
Absolutely. So that's one thing that is important to note is folks that are sealers, particularly in Eastern Canada, generally are also commercial fishermen. And these are folks that are reliant on the health of our oceans to be able to put food on their table and clothes on their back. And these are folks that are out on the water and see the real impacts of seal predation on cod, on salmon, on all kinds of different species. We have 5 species in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, species of fish in the Gulf of St. Lawrence that are on the species at risk list under the Species at Risk Act, where predation by seals is identified as one of the biggest impediments to those populations rebounding. And we hear this not only in Canadian waters, but we hear this actually from Europeans. The governments of Sweden, government of Finland, government of Estonia and Latvia have all noted concerns around seal predation on their cod populations, on their salmon populations. And they have, a percentage of the amount of seals that we have in the Northwest Atlantic.
And what are the numbers, say, in relation to export of fur and skins? I mean, is there any round figure in dollars?
So it can be difficult to really put a fine point on the value of skins exported. We can say that last year there were around 40,000 seals harvested in Eastern Canada. Some of those seals stay here in Canada and are transformed into garments, into accessories, into handicrafts. But some of those seals are exported. And in some cases, they're exported as a whole garment. In some cases, they're exported somewhere else where they're transformed into a garment. So it can be difficult to nail down a specific dollar figure on this is exactly how much the seal industry is worth.
It's not just the skins. I mean, the meat is used as food, isn't it?
Yes. So seal meat is important. We don't have a huge export market for seal meat right now, but there are places in Eastern Canada and particularly in Northern Canada where seal meat is a very important part of the diet. With the thing I always say about seal meat is it's the best meat you haven't tried yet. I greatly enjoy eating seal meat, and there's a whole lot of folks across the country that when they finally get a chance to sample seal meat, go, oh wow, I didn't even know this existed. But it really is a Canadian superfood. It's incredibly high in protein, incredibly high in iron, high in magnesium and zinc. So
the general pictures that we are shown is the seals are beaten to death and then they're skinned and the body is just left in the ice, and That's that's the general idea. I mean, what we get. That's not true, isn't it?
No, I mean that's the thing is the fairly shocking images that have been shared
Yes.
around the world 50 times, 500 times by anti-sealing groups. These may be a little bit off-putting imagery,
Right.
but these are harvests that are carried out under strict regulation, strict supervision. The process for killing a seal was designed by a group of international veterinary experts using the best available veterinary science. So we really are proud of the fact that the Canadian seal harvest is a humane process. And it's right in the name when you do the harvesting course. It's the humane harvesting course,
Well,
uh, humane harvest training. So it's something that we're willing to put up against any other wild animal harvest in the world.
are these skins and furs sold in Canadian markets too?
Yes, so there are a number of manufacturers here in Canada that make incredible high quality
Okay.
sealskin garments, sealskin accessories, which folks can find on CanadianSealProducts.com. If they go on there, there is a shop section where people can actually go and take a look and see what incredible garments and accessories are made here in Canada by our great fur sector.
Are seals harvested in the Pacific coast also?
So there's very small scale harvests of seals and sea lions by Indigenous harvesters in British Columbia. But it's something where there's quite a bit of ongoing discussion about formalizing that harvest because it is an important historical part of Indigenous cultures in British Columbia. And unfortunately, for a number of decades now, the federal government has prohibited that important cultural activity. But there are a number of activists in British Columbia, Indigenous activists in British Columbia, that are advocating for a return of formalized seal and sea lion harvest in British Columbia to allow not only for reconnection with culture and heritage, but also to support food security in remote Indigenous communities on the BC coast.
So, what do you think the future holds for the traditional lives of Indigenous communities in Eastern and Northern Canada?
I mean, I certainly want to be optimistic about it. I think that the conversation in 2023 around seal harvest is very different than the conversation in 2009 when the European Union first banned seal products. There's a greater appreciation for the blue economy, greater appreciation for the need to support Indigenous peoples and local communities in connecting with culture and heritage, but also in connecting with the market economy to reduce poverty and reduce food insecurity. And in a lot of ways, the seal harvest, despite being a favorite target of animal rights groups, increasingly more mainline environmental groups are starting to appreciate, wait, this is a sustainable source of protein, a sustainable source of garments, instead of wearing a jacket made out of plastic that's going to end up in the ocean someday in 10 million tiny pieces. We can wear a sealskin garment where if you take the zippers and buttons off of it, that is a completely biodegradable textile.
I mean, have you seen any decline in the number of people involved in sealing over the past few years?
So there certainly has been a decline, mostly as a result of generational change.
Yeah.
We're very much on the edge of losing an incredible amount of knowledge from folks that have been sealing for 50, 60 years, folks that started as teenagers that are now unfortunately old men. As much as we'd like to keep them around forever, time keeps ticking on. We want to make sure that we're able to harness the knowledge that these folks have, that these elders have, and find a way to share that knowledge through to a new generation of sealers, of folks in their 20s and 30s, so that we don't lose some of the very important knowledge that these folks have.
I mean, is there a canning industry also associated with sealing?
Not so much anymore. There's certainly some frozen meat products and cured meat products, but not much in the way of canned meat anymore.
I don't think much of it comes to Ontario.
Right. So certainly there's a few places in Ontario where seal meat is still available on special order. Seal meat is more available in Quebec. Certainly folks in Montreal and Quebec City can more easily access seal meat than folks say in Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. Chiasson, for giving us an insight into this very important issue. I mean, traditions have to be upheld. This is always the foundation for the future.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to you
today. Thanks, Mr. Chiasson. Yeah, thank you again. And we'll be supporting. We'll meet again and talk about this some other time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, more than happy to talk anytime.
Thank you, Mr. Chiasson. Thanks.
All right. Have a great day.